The Los Angeles Rams are the biggest winners of NFL free agency, and that might sound crazy considering they have signed one actual free agent, but hear me out, okay? I'm incorporating all offseason moves into this decision, okay? My free agency moves, the trades, the restructures, the cuts, extensions, etc. So the Rams trading for Trent McDuffie is included in this decision because obviously it is. They gave up a ton to get Trent McDuffie. Don't get me wrong, okay? The 29th overall pick in the draft, 2 more late round picks, a 3rd round pick next year, and $124 million over the next 4 years via his largest contract extension for a cornerback in NFL history. But you are getting a bona fide top 5 corner in the NFL, a guy who has been basically that since he came into the league, and adding to a defense whose only real weakness in last year's playoff was its secondary. That's the only thing that the Los Angeles Rams struggled with in last year's playoff, was guarding other teams' wide receivers and other teams' passing games. Now they have a top 5 corner in the NFL. They signed Jalen Watson as well from Kansas City. They re-signed Cam Curl, and they still have the 13th overall pick in the draft to get another impact defender, or shit, if you want to get another weapon for that already elite offense, you can as well. All I know is the Los Angeles Rams were, to me, the second best team in football last year. And right now, they are much better heading into 2026 than they were in 2025. There's still a lot of offseason to go. But if I had to pick my next year's Super Bowl champion in March, I'm picking the LA Rams. Fellas, it's been a wild NFL offseason so far. I want to ask you guys, who are your winners of NFL free agency so far?
I mean, we talked about on another episode, it's hard not to like what the Las Vegas Raiders have done. You build teams based on 4 key positions: a lockdown corner, some stability at linebacker who fits really well in the scheme, is intelligent, is able to do some franchise type of guy. Then you have a good left tackle. I already think they have a left tackle. They had some interior line problems. What do? They go out and sign the best free agent center on the market in Tyler Linderbaum from the Baltimore Ravens. Great signing. And then now you have the number 1 overall pick. You're going to go get your franchise quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. Only thing they're missing is a bona fide one at wide receiver. I know they got Jalen Naylor, but you talked about it in another episode, Matt. How cool would it be to round this out with a Deebo Samuel or a Stephon Diggs for the wide receiver room? Get everything you need. You already have the running back, right? We know they're set at tight end. They have a lot of youth at the wide receiver position who should see a leap under new head coach there. And not to mention, you go ahead and you go out and you get a bona fide fullback in Connor Hayward to lead Ashton Jeanty into those offensive gaps there and just tear this running game up, right? Give your quarterback a chance to develop, establish a solid running game. I like everything the Las Vegas Raiders did. Now, I understand the Max Crosby trade fell through with the Ravens. You lost some draft capital there, but you still have Max Crosby. It's not a bad place to be in. He just wants to play football. Everything's water under the bridge based on how the end of the year finished and all the reports coming out that he was unhappy with how they handled his injury situation, that he wasn't really hurt. Whatever it may be, if he's down to play football for the Raiders, you're in a great position to be in because Max Crosby is a great edge defender in the NFL, probably easily, arguably top 5. Currently playing in the NFL, I would give him that when healthy, right? He plays the position really well.
I 100% agree with you, Joe. Real quick, before you go, Sammy, I did want to touch on the Raiders as well because, again, I think I would have liked their offseason more if that Crosby trade had went through because they were getting the 14th overall pick in the draft, which obviously, when you're trying to build around a first overall pick quarterback, is extremely, extremely valuable. And then you get the Ravens 2027 pick, which who knows how the Ravens are going to be in 2027. If Lamar Jackson gets hurt again and, a couple other guys get hurt, that could be another 14th overall pick, and the 2027 draft is supposed to be even more loaded than the 2026 draft is. So yeah, there was a lot of moves that I really liked. Like you mentioned, Tyler Linderbaum, that's going to help out your number 1 overall quarterback as well. And it's also going to help out Ashton Jeanty a hell of a lot because Linderbaum is a damn good run blocker as well. And then I also like the linebacker duo that they got with Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker as well.
Absolutely.
That basically solidifies their linebacker duo. So yeah, Joe, I got to agree with you there. I really like the Raiders offseason as well. But Sammy, got to kick it to you, brother. Who are the winners of this NFL free agency so far?
I almost chose the Rams outright because of what they just did, but I have to give some love to that team over in Tennessee, led by my guy, Cam Ward. Sir, you have some help now. You have some very nice help on the defensive end at the very least. First of all, I didn't know Tennessee had bread like this. They spent so much money. They have to be doing something illegal. This is crazy. Wan'Dale Robinson is one heck of a wide receiver. When he played for the Giants, he hit up 1,000 receiving yards. He was incredible over there. And now he's going to be playing with Cam Ward. And Cam Ward is just going to give him the nicest balls, let me tell you. John Franklin Myers.
Pause.
John Franklin Myers. What happened? Oh. Hey, I'm in the middle of my point. John Franklin Myers.
Crazy.
John Franklin Myers is one of the top defensive linemen in the league. One of the most underrated players. John Franklin Myers, what a pickup. He's going to help that defense immediately. And then you guys are not going to let this go on. I have to make my point.
I'm not saying anything. Just go, man.
No, you and Joe are not helping me. John Franklin Myers is one heck of a player. Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott, those two corners. Look, L'Jarius Sneed might be cut. I thought him adding L'Jarius Sneed there was a great move, but now looking at it, like he hasn't had a really like that good of a career over in Tennessee. I think
Sneed was bad in Tennessee.
He was really bad. So Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott handles that cornerback room, and then Daniel Bellinger at tight end, somebody who can do a little bit of both, can block, can catch some passes. Also, Joshua Williams, who I thought was a pretty solid corner in Kansas City, he gets into that Robert Saleh system as well. And on top of that, you didn't really lose anything. So you lost Chiga Okonkwo, whatever. Arden Key, you lost him, whatever. Sebastian Joseph Day, I already mentioned John Franklin Myers, you updated there. I'm going to say it right now. I think that the Tennessee Titans are going to win the AFC South. I'm picking them to win it outright. I'm picking them right now, okay? I expect a second-year leap from Cam Ward. I don't know if it's going to be an MVP leap, but a leap will happen. Everything you think about Robert Saleh and the New York Jets, erase it. It's the New York Jets, okay? Nobody succeeds over there, all right? So everything you know about him, wipe it out. This man is like top 10 defenses in the New York Jets. Do you know who the New York Jets are? I don't want to slander the Jets, but I am. They suck, okay? They absolutely suck. So now he's going to an actual franchise that is literally pushing boatloads of money onto the table and paying these great players, right? And they still have a draft. They still have a draft to take care of. I don't know. I forget the amount of picks that they have, but they have a top 10.
They got the fourth overall pick. Yeah, fourth
overall pick. They could use that on whatever they want. They get an instant starter. I don't know if they're bona fide contenders, but I'm making the hot take right here. Sammy Hot Takes predicts the Tennessee Titans are going to win the AFC South. It is going to happen, and Cam Ward, my brother, is going to lead the charge, baby.
Yeah, Sammy, you must have watched my Titans video this offseason, because this is a lot of similar stuff. This is a lot of similar stuff that I was talking about in that video. They had a ton of cap space. They restructured a few contracts, opened up even more cap space. They used that cap space wisely. And to kind of the point that you were talking about a little bit earlier, I think this team is going to improve just based on the coaching upgrades that they have. Robert Saleh is going to call the defense. We know what Robert Saleh can do with a defense. He does a hell of a job with whatever defense he's calling. And Brian Daboll, when he can just sit down and be the offensive coordinator for an offense, and he doesn't have to be the head coach, I think that's going to be a huge upgrade, especially considering where the Titans were last year with their coaching staff. They were one of the worst coach teams in football. Now I think they're going to be one of the best coach teams in football. And to me, at number 4 overall, I think they have a really good opportunity to potentially go get one of the best players, maybe if not the best player in the draft, and Jeremiah Love at running back, to go with Cam Ward. And that would be a super dynamic duo that they could have for the next half decade at least. I have another one that I want to talk about, or actually two that I want to talk about really, really quick. I want to talk about the Carolina Panthers, because $120 million to give to Jalen Phillips is probably too much, but it's what they needed. They needed an edge rusher. They went out. They got a good young edge rusher. Obviously has some injury concerns, has some actual production concerns where his sack numbers aren't super high, but he's got all the analytics. He's got pressure rate is super high. His pass rush win rate is super high, stuff like that for Jalen Phillips. So I like that addition. And to me, one of my favorite signings of the offseason was the Panthers going and getting Devin Lloyd, because Devin Lloyd was, in my opinion, the best player on the market. Devin Lloyd's season last year, if he would have stayed healthy the whole year and continued on his pace, he would have had, obviously outside of Myles Garrett, who had 23 sacks, but he would have had a great argument for Defensive Player of the Year if Myles Garrett and 23 sacks didn't exist, because Devin Lloyd was absolutely balling out on the best run defense in the NFL in Jacksonville. And then they also added a couple offensive linemen, Rasheed Walker and Luke Fortner, to one-year deals as well, that I liked a lot as well. But fellas, this one might be controversial. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. And this is a team that nobody likes because they've been very, very good for a very long time. and it's going to depend on the draft that they have, okay? But they have tons of draft capital now, considering they made a huge trade. Kansas City Chiefs, man, they have the 9th and the 29th overall picks to get younger, to get cheaper, to revamp their roster. And listen, all three of they lost some free agents. They lost basically their entire cornerback room.
Yes.
They lost Trent McDuffie, they lost Williams, and they lost Watson. They also lost Brian Cook, a safety. Okay, so they lost a lot. Okay, but there are 3 main additions. Kenneth Walker is going to give them a caliber of running back that they haven't had since the first stint of Kareem Hunt. That's 8 years ago that we saw Kareem Hunt. And I think Kenneth Walker, just the caliber of player he is, the explosive player that he is, Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense have not had that in a long time. And then you go and get Alohi Gilman at safety, Kairos Tonga at defensive tackle, both on very reasonable deals. And those are 2 really good players that are going to help that defense a lot. And even the Justin Fields trade, I like that trade a lot as well, because even though I was a big Justin Fields guy when he was coming out in the draft. Since then, he obviously has shown that he is not, the most elite passer of the football, but he's a damn good athlete. I'm sure Andy Reid can scheme up some kind of trick play type schemes for Justin Fields to get in there and run some wildcat type offense with Justin Fields. So I think they're really set up when Mahomes comes back to still compete in that AFC West, but I think they're even more so set up to rebuild and compete for the future. So fellas, you got any thoughts on those couple of additions and any more additions that you saw notable as far as winners this offseason?
I wasn't a big fan of the Kenneth Walker deal. I thought it was an overpay. I understand he just won Super Bowl MVP, but if you look at the bulk of the career, right, does he really deserve to be in the same breadth of Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Derrick Henry? Because they're paying him like he is. He's the 4th highest paid running back going into this year. That feels like an overpay for a guy who's never had a top 10 rushing season. He's had 1 year where he finished top 10 in TDs and he was tied for 10th. Like, that's the best rushing statistic he's had, right? The rest of the time, he's middle of the pack. He's 16th here, and I understand he was in a timeshare. Zach Charbonnet was producing just as much as he was on less carries. I understand why they did it. Is he the best running back they've had in a hot minute? Yeah, he's a definite upgrade. I just felt it was an overpay for the caliber you're getting, especially with some of the names that you have in this draft from like a young running back perspective that would have been cheaper.
Well, I think the why I like the move is, yes, I do think he got paid a lot, but now they don't have to worry. Everybody is expecting them to get a running back, was expecting them to possibly get a running back in Jeremiah Love in this draft.
Love fell to 9.
Yeah, if Love fell to 9, he was going to go to Kansas City. Now, the odds of that happening were relatively low.
Very low, yeah.
Relatively low, but there was still a possibility. Now that you're not going to bank on a draft pick to end up working out, which it probably would because Jeremiah Love is a stud. Also, with the revamped offensive line that I'm assuming Kansas City is going to have, I think that he could have a very good year in Kansas City's system and give Patrick Mahomes something that he really hasn't had for a majority of his career, which is a good run game. So I like the move for Kansas City. The Carolina Panthers, I understand everybody's mad at the Jalen Phillips signing. Guys, he's one of the best pass rushers in the league when it comes to pressures. Okay, and pressures are the name of the game in this league. If you're pressuring the quarterback, you're making him uncomfortable. You're making it easier for the secondary. Yes, sacks matter. He doesn't sack the quarterback at the rate you'd like. However, if you're pressuring the quarterback at a consistent rate, that's what defensive line coaches love. That's what defensive coordinators love. And that's why he's getting this amount of money. Is it still an overpay? Yes, it is. However, Carolina is trying to get to the next step. And when you're trying to get to the next step, you drop the bread. Now, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But these are kind of the things in sports that I don't understand. If you have the money to take the risk to win more games, you take the risk. You don't become cheap. Because we've seen when you get cheap, like the Bengals did, when they got cheap, look at what they're at now. Okay? So I understand it's a bit of
it's a hard sell to say they got cheap. They paid 3 people a lot of money.
My bad. They paid the wrong. To be fair, it was like we were kind of telling them, T. Higgins, I would let go.
And there was a lot of hand wringing there too. It was like they were super hesitant to pay those guys for a long time, and then eventually somebody talked them into okay, you got to pay Joe Burrow, you got to pay Jamar Chase.
They waited for Jamar Chase to have the best season of his career, and then they were like, "Oh, well, now we have to pay him." Well, no, you could have paid him earlier. You could have paid him way earlier. The same way you could have paid Joe Burrow. The same way you could have handled the entire situation with Trey Hendrickson a lot easier. Like the Bengals kind of did it for themselves. The Panthers are like, you know what? We're going to extend the guys we need to extend. We're going to pay the guys in the position of need. Jalen Phillips is a position of need, and he's going to do wonders for the Panthers. I'm sure of it. I like finishing last.
Pause again. Yeah.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.